Welcome to today's tutorial, and today we're going to have a look at how to connect a Node.js project with MongoDB. So basically what we'll be covering in this specific tutorial, first of all, we're going to look at the prerequisites, what you require, what you're supposed to have before for you to get the most value out of this tutorial. We're going to go ahead and set up a Node.js project. We're going to install the required Node.js modules. Then we're going to go ahead and do everything else that has already been stated in this table of contents. Basically, we'll be creating a Node.js API and trying to connect it with a MongoDB, the MongoDB database. Then when we start our application, we're going to see how everything flows from there. But before we get there, what is basically MongoDB? MongoDB is a popular NoSQL database that allows developers to store and manage data in a flexible and scalable manner. So basically, SQL stands for Structured Query Language, and MongoDB being a NoSQL database, it means that it's not a structured query language. So basically, like for such databases, they're known as non-relational databases. You find that the data is stored in form of a document or in a different other form, other than in like structured tables that communicate with each other, which is what relational databases do or SQL databases do. And Node.js is a server-side runtime that allows you to build web applications using JavaScript. So use Node.js to build the backend of our applications. Yeah, and in this tutorial, we're going to look at how to connect now Node.js with MongoDB. Okay, you can also use this as a reference for building database-driven applications later on. So these are the things that you are expected to have for you to get the most value out of this tutorial. First of all, make sure that you have Node.js installed. If you don't, go to this website, nodejs.org, and you can get the latest version of Node.js from there. Then for MongoDB, we're going to be using MongoDB Atlas, but of course you can still install MongoDB locally and use it. But for the cases of this, for the purposes of this tutorial, we're going to use the MongoDB Atlas. So you can also go to MongoDB, just search MongoDB Atlas, then create an account, and we're going to continue from there. We're also going to require npm, but this comes already bundled with Node.js. The moment you install it, and for code editor, we're going to use Visual Studio Code. It is the most popular choice out there, but you have the leeway to go and use a code editor that you prefer or that you're most comfortable with. Okay, let's get started. I have already opened up my terminal, and I'm going to cd to desktop. And inside the desktop is where I'm going to create a folder for a tutorial. So I'm going to just create a folder, and I'm going to call this folder node MongoDB tutorial. And I'll just cd to this specific folder that we just created. As you can see, we've created the folder and it's empty. And after creating this folder, then we just set up our project. So I'll just do npm init -y, and now we're going to have a basic setup of our Node.js project. As you can see here, the name of our project is MongoDB tutorial version 1. The main file is index.js, and you can see all the others following there. So if I just ls here, you see you already have a package.json file that has been opened. So since you've already done this, now we're going to open this folder on Visual Studio Code, and then we're going to start writing our code and doing the other basic stuff that you're about to do yet. So to open this on VS Code, I just do code space full stop, and it's going to open up a VS Code. Okay, now that we've already opened up our Visual Studio Code, so the next stage that we're going to follow from here is basically installing the node modules that we require for this project. And I'll pull up my terminal here. As you can see, we're already in the Node MongoDB tutorial folder that we created. And so to connect Node.js, your Node.js application with MongoDB, we need to have two modules, specifically two modules installed. So the first module is Mongoose, and for Mongoose is basically an object data modeling library for MongoDB, and the other one is Express. So Express is used as a minimal web application framework for Node.js. So to install these two, we're going to do npm install mongoose and express. So both of them like that, and they'll be installed. They shouldn't take long, so in a few should already install the two modules that you'll be using for this tutorial. So after this, the next thing that we're going to do is, once it has already finished installing, we're going to create an express application. Yeah, so we're going to create this basic basic REST API for interacting with MongoDB. Yeah, and for us to be able to do that, we're going to create a file here, and we're going to call this file app.js. So we create a new file here, and we call it app.js. And this app.js file, let me close down the terminal here. So this app.js file that we'll be using is the one that you're going to use for basically um, setting up our Express application. Yeah. So the first thing that we're going to do, of course, we've already installed Express and Mongoose. So we're going to import all of them here. So we're going to let's get Express. And so to get in Node.js, instead of importing, just use require. So use require Express. And the next thing that we're going to need apart from this is after we've already imported our express, now we need to create an express app. So basically we're going to call this app, and we'll call express like this. Yeah, then the next thing that we're going to need is mongoose, so that one as well. So we just assign it to a variable called mongoose, and as well we do here require mongoose. So after doing this, what we're going to need here now is connecting to MongoDB. And for us to connect to MongoDB, it's actually very simple. So what we'll do here, we're going to just say mongoose.connect. Then this is going to take in two things. So the first thing that is going to take is your MongoDB URL, basically the connection string that you're going to get either from the locally installed MongoDB or from MongoDB Atlas. So that is going to go in here. For now, I'll just have a placeholder, and I'll just call this placeholder maybe MongoDB localhost /db, something like that. Okay. Then the next thing we're going to have an object here. And inside this object, we're going to have two things. So we're going to have use new URL parser. New URL parser, and we're going to assign it to true. And the next thing that we're going to have as well is you're going to have use unified topology. And for this one, I'm also going to give it a true. Okay. Yeah, so then we just have a dot then here. So dot then you have an arrow function here that is going to just log a statement to the console. So you'll have an arrow function here that just logs the statement. So console.log logs the statement that you've already connected to MongoDB, and we're just going to do a bit of error handling here. So here we're going to print out an error that comes up. So Also, this one is an arrow function as well. So we pass in like that, and we're going to just console.error here. Console.error. And so here we're going to, that is in case the connection is not successful. Now we're going to log to the console this statement that says error connecting to MongoDB. Then we're also going to just print out the error for them like that. Yeah, so after that, the last thing that we're going to do is basically pass in our routes. So also for this one, we can just tab it in like that. So I'm also going to define our routes down here. You can actually have an comment there that says define routes. So here for the routes that we'll be defining, so we're just going to go create a variable here, define, declare and initialize a variable called port, and we're going to give it port. So for this one, we just give it a port, assign it a port 3000. Okay. And you're also going to listen to this port basically. So for that, just do app.listen, and you're going to listen to port 3000. And we're going to also have an arrow function here, and this arrow function is going to just log a statement to the console that says the server is running. So for that, again, you just do console.log, and you print out a statement here that says the server is running on port. So for this one, I'm just going to have the specific port that someone is going to define here. So you can change the port to like whatever port number that you decide to have it be 8000, 8080, any of those. So for here as well, we're also going to try and get a port number. We're going to be creating environmental variables later, but for that, we're just going to have process.env port. So we're having this for when someone already defines a port in the .env file. So actually, I just create that .env file right now. So create a file here and we call it .env. So inside this file is we are going to have our environmental variables. And for port, you just define port like that, and we're going to assign it a value. Whatever value that someone assigns it here is going to be the value that will also be here. So it's either that there's no value of port that in the .env file, it's going to fetch, it's going to use the 3000, the port 3000 basically here. Yeah. So now with our connection string, which you'll be getting and having it here. So you get a connection string from the MongoDB Atlas or the local install, but I will be showing you that process in a moment when you get there. Yeah. So now if you're using MongoDB Atlas, you're going to get the connection string there. Okay. The next thing that we're going to do now is the next step is we're going to define a MongoDB data model. Yeah, so we're going to create a model for a to-do application. Yeah, so you'll be basically creating a simple to-do application here. So for that, we're going to go ahead and define, create a folder here and call this folder models. Okay, now in the models folder, we're going to create a file and we're going to call this file to-do.js. To-do.js. Yeah. Now inside here is where we're going to define our models. Yeah. So for us to define our models, what we'll do here, first of all, we're going to require mongoose. So we require mongoose here. Require mongoose. Okay. Now from there, we're going to now define our schema here. So we're going to assign this to a variable called to do schema. going to call this variable to do schema, and we're going to create a new schema here. So just say mongoose.schema, and in here we're going to have the first field is going to be the title. It's going to be a string. We want the title to be a string. The next thing will be whether a task has been completed or not. So completed, and that is going to be a boolean. So yes, true or false. Okay, now that we've already done that, we need to export our schema. So we're going to do module dot exports, and we're just going to say at the end is just mongoose dot model, and then we're going to assign here to do, and we're going to assign here to do and the schema. Okay, so we just have to do and our to do schema. So we're exporting both of this out of this file so you can use them later. So after this, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to define or create our API routes for to do application. And for that to be possible as well, we're going to create a folder here. And we're going to call this folder as well routes. So I just need to have it here. So we create a folder and call it routes. And inside our routes folder as well, we're going to create a to-do.js file. So to-do.js file. And inside our to-do.js file is where we're going to define our API routes. Again, this is going to be very simple for our API routes. So for this, we're going to require express and the to-do that you already defined in the models. So first of all, we just get our express here. So require express. After this, we're going to create our router using express as well. So what we just do here, I'll just say express.router, and we assign this to a variable. Yeah, we assign this to a variable, and we're going to call this variable router. So just say const router. Okay, and then we're going to require the models that we had created. We're going to require the models that we created in our models folder there. Yeah, so I'm going to just go ahead and say const to do, and then I'm going to require now we define a specific route for the models. So it's in // models / to do. So that is where they are. So after this, so what we're going to do is we're going to define our routes. So we're going to define our routes here, but I'll leave this. We're going to leave this for now and just export. So we're going to do module.exports, and we're going to export router like that. And we're going to get back into this in a moment. So what we're going to do now is for us to create our routes inside here, inside where I've already said define our routes here. So we're going to create two routes. So the first route is of course for posting and getting and everything. So let's first of all start with creating a new to do. Yeah, so for you to create a new to do, what you need here is you're going to just use router.post. So you're making a post request, and this is going to take in two things. First of all, the route that someone has to go. So let's say localhost / post or something like that. Then the second argument is going to be now an arrow function as well that is going to basically render what is going to be given, what is going to be displayed in that specific route that we're going to define. So for that, we just we're just going to be a localhost / just like that in home. Then we're going to create define an asynchronous function here, again an arrow function, and this is going to require two things: a request and a response. So just call that request and a response. Then after this, the next thing that we're going to do is basically create our to do, but we're going to do some error handling using the try and catch method. So just try, and here we're going to of course create our to do. Yeah, so to do, so for you to create that, you're just going to say new to do, and this is going to create a new to do here, and we'll have the title. So the title that is going to go here is the title that is going to be defined by someone when they're making the post request. And for us to get that title that they define, we're just going to say request dot body dot title. Once we do this, this is going to get the specific title that someone already defined, and whether it's completed. So because it's a to do, a task that someone is putting there, since they're creating the task, it's obviously not complete. So for that, we're going to just say false. Remember, we in our models we defined completed is supposed to be a boolean here, so that is why we're having it here as, yeah, that's why we're having it here as a boolean. So we have completed as false. So after defining, after rather creating our to do, so we're going to save our to do. We're just going to do await, then to do dot save. So we're going to save our to do, and the next thing is just checking the response. So just do response dot status. So if the status is 2 or 1, that's the status code for this dot json. Then we're going to pass in our to do in here. Okay, so after doing that, we've already defined the route for someone to make a post request, and we're just going to catch an error in case something goes wrong while someone is trying to make the post request. So we're going to just log the error. So for that, we're just going to say response dot status, and the status code here is going to be 400.json, and then we're going to just get our message here. So the message is going to be error.message. So whatever error message that is going to be displayed here. Okay, now that we've already defined our route for making a post request, so the next thing we're going to do is create a route for getting all the to-dos, so all the tasks that someone has decided they're going to do here. So for us to get that, again, for that, what we're going to do is make a get request. I'll just have a comment here. It says get to-dos, and inside here we're going to just say router.get make a get request, and we're making this to, of course, the home, and we're going to also have make an asynchronous function here. So again, you get the request and the response, and we're also going to do a bit error handling here. So just use the try and catch, very simple. So we're going to get our to-dos, and we're going to just use the dot find method. So just going to await to do dot find, then we're going to basically JSONify the response. So for that, just do res.json, and we pass in our to-dos in there. Okay, the next thing that we do here is, of course, just catch an error in case any comes up. So for that, just do response.status, the same thing we did before, response.status. But for this one, since if you don't find anything, the status code for this is 500.json, and you're going to also log the message. So message is going to be error, dot message. Okay, now with this you can get all your to-dos, and we're going to be seeing how that happens once we start testing our API. Yeah, so the next one is going to be when you want to update. That is basically make a patch request and to update a to-do. And for that as well, we're going to define a route here. So we're going to again just have a comment here and say update to do. Yeah, so for this we're going to just say router.patch, and for this one, because you want to you want to update a specific to do, a specific task, you have to define an ID for that. So we're going to need an ID for that, and the ID attached to that specific task that you're updating. And then again, the same process as before. So get your request and responses, the two parameters that go in there. Then from here, so the first thing that we're going to do is find our to do by ID. So first of all, get our to do here, and we're going to find it by ID. So what to do, just say to do dot find by ID. Again, it's already there. Then get our request dot params dot id. Yeah, so with that we're going to get our to do. Yeah, so and for the we're going to have a condition here that says again, if there's no to do, we're going to return, of course, a message that says the to do was not found. Else, if the to do was found, we're going to mark it as maybe like completed. Yeah, assuming that is the update that you want to make. So just if the to do is not available, yeah, we're going to return the to do is not available. We're going to return a response here. So the status code for this is 44 not found, 44.json, and we're going to of course pass in the message here. So the message is going to be to do not found, to do not found. Yeah, so again, if the to do was there, so we're going to just mark it as complete. So to do dot completed, and going to get the request dot body dot completed. So whatever is going to be passed in there. Then after that, we're going to just save our to do. So await to do dot save. Once we do that, we've already saved our to do. Yeah, the next thing that we do, just JSONify it again. So to do dot JSON, and we pass in the to do right there. And then, so for this as well, we needed to do a bit of error handling. So first I'll just have this enclosed in a try block. So try, and I'm going to pass that in, move this one tab inside, yeah, like that. Okay, and then we're going to catch an error here. So catch, and you pass in the error, of course. So response dot status, the status code for this is going to be 400. Okay, JSON, and we're going to pass in a message here, and this is going to be an error message, obviously. So we have error dot message, like that. Yeah, so once you do this, this is going to allow someone to update, their to do. Yeah, so the next thing that we do apart from updating is deleting. Yeah, so someone has already marked their task as complete. The next thing that they need to do is just to clear it from their to dos. Yeah, so for that as well, we're going to have I have a comment here, and I'll call this delete to do. So what do you do here? Just say router dot delete. Yeah, router dot delete, and we're going to again you're deleting like a task with a specific ID, and you're going to this async, get a request and a response there. Yeah, again, just try again to use the try and catch block for this. So the first thing that we do again is just find the specific to do that we want to delete. So just use the to do dot find. So to do dot find by ID, and just get here request dot params dot ID. Yeah. And if the to do is not there, of course, just say that the to do was not found. For that, I'll just copy this. It's still the same line of code that we're going to need here. So if it is not, the to do was not found, and then if it was found, of course, we're going to remove it. So just say to do dot remove. Okay. After that, the next thing as well is just to return a response. So we're going to just have a response.json, and the response here is going to be a message that the to do has been deleted. Okay. To do deleted. So I'm going to also need a catch block just for the errors as well. Error. And we have a request.status, and the status code for this is 500. So the JSON, and you're going to pass in a message here, of course, as well. So the message is going to be an error message. So error.message, like that. Yeah, and we're already exporting our router here. So with this is enough for us to have, because to create a to do, fetch a to do, update a to do, and delete a to do. Basically, the CRUD operations have already all been taken care of here. Yeah. So the next thing that after this now, what you need to do is use our API routes, the routes that we've already defined here. We use these routes in our application. Yeah. And for us to do that, what we need to do is basically import this to do, import the to do router that we've already, that is this one that we have here. Import the to do router. And then we're going to import it inside our app.js file and use it right there. Again, a very simple process for this. So what we do is we're going to go to our app.js file. So inside the app.js, you already have all this. So what you're going to do is, first of all, you're going to use a body parser middleware. Then we're going to import our routes and use our routes. Again, very simple. Yeah. So what we'll do here, I'll have this after connecting MongoDB. So going to have body parser middleware. I have body parser middleware here. Yeah. So what we do, just basically say app.use, then express.json. Yeah. Like this. Then we're going to import. So for importing our routes, you can just import them up here. So what we'll do is just const, going to call them to-dos router. To-dos router. And we're going to require, just use require again. Require. And we define the specific route where we have them. So we have them in routes / to do. Routes / to do. Yeah. So this file here, to do, I'll just call it to do's. Yeah. Just rename it and call it to do's. Then yes. So in our app.js, we have routes to do's all done. Yeah. So after this, the next obvious thing is just to use the routes that we've already defined here. So what you do here is we're going to use our routes, and for that, just say app.use. Then we define our routes here. So just say / to do's / to do's. Then you're going to pass in the to do's router. To do's router, like that. Okay. So with this, what the next thing that we need to do, of course, is the next obvious step from here is starting our application and everything. But before that, now that we've already written our code, we need to get the MongoDB connection string. So this connection string here. And for this, we're going to go to MongoDB Atlas and get for us to get this connection string right here. So for us to get our MongoDB connection string, once you log into MongoDB Atlas and create your account, come to projects. Then here I'm going to create a new project, and I'm going to name this project to do. So because our applications are to do application, name it to do. Then it says add in your I'll just go ahead and create a project. So once we create our project, because this is what we say we get here. So we're going to go ahead and create a deployment. So we just create a deployment there. Then so there are these options that you're given, but for us we just obviously going to go for the free tier here. So you select the free tier and then go ahead and create. Okay, so after creating, now we need to select a username and a password. Yeah. So again, for this one, I'm going to choose something so simple. Because I'll delete it after. So for username, I'll just call it username will be admin to do, and for a password here, I'll just call this password again admin. Yeah, maybe admin. Yeah, I think that should be enough. Again, I'll delete this one after. So we do that, add entries, add my current IP address. So I'm just going to do that. Okay, then now we're going to create the user. So it's saying edit my local environment. So actually, yeah, so you go ahead and finish and close. Then it says congratulations on setting up access rules. So you go to overview. I'm not going to save that. So once we get here, so let's let it finish refreshing. So the next thing that we do for us to be able to get our connection string, you just go to connect. Yeah. Then from connect, you just select the drivers up here, and this is what you get here. So you have your this is the connection string what you're seeing here. So you just copy it, and of course you're going to replace the password with the password that you get. So we go ahead and copy this as well. So we're also going to do npm install MongoDB, then have that connection string. And this is basically how you get your connection string from MongoDB. Yeah. So now after getting a connection string, so I copied the connection string and I've already pasted in here, replace the password that admin. Again, like I said, I'm going to get rid of this immediately after this. So after that, the next thing that I'm going to do here is just install MongoDB. So just do npm install MongoDB. Okay, so as that's already doing that. So what you'll do now afterwards, after everything has already finished, is we're going to run our application. Yeah. And to run our application is actually quite easy. So what you do for that is just go ahead and say node, then the entry point to application is app.js. So just say node app.js, enter. Yeah, and here we're getting a sense a server running error connection to MongoDB. Yeah, so it's saying there's an error connecting to MongoDB. Yeah, so for this one, I think I'm going to go and check the error that I got at MongoDB. Then we will circle back and proceed. Okay, so I've figured out what the problem was. It's actually not with the connection string or like everything else, But here, when I was writing, it's supposed to be use new URL parser. Instead of R, I used an E. So it's supposed to be URL parser. So once we save that and we run our code again, I see the code runs and again connected to MongoDB. Then from here, now that we've connected to MongoDB, the next stage from here is to test our API with Postman and try and like load some dummy data and see what we get next. Yeah. So to test our API with Postman, so we open Postman, then up here I'm going to type in the URLs. It's localhost port 3000 slash to dos. That's how we call it slash. Then so now you go to raw and right here you select JSON. We're going to write our task in JSON form. So just do that, and then remember we had our in our models we defined first of all the task and whether the task is complete or not complete. Yeah, and that is what we're going to make sure that we do here now. So first of all, the task, we gave it title. So going to do here title, and let's say the first task of the title was write code. Yeah, and then the next now is completed. So for completed, it's supposed to be enclosed in speech marks. For completed, you're going to say false. Yeah, so this should be like that. So for completed, you should say false. Yeah. Now the next thing that we do from here is send our post request. So let's click send and see the response that we get. So I meant to send, as you can see here, we've already gotten our response. So the title of our task is write code, completed is false. Then there's an ID that has been attached to that specific task. Yeah, so we can also maybe write a second task here, and let's say the second task is clean. Yeah, so let's also send a request for this. So you can see it has also sent clean as the task, whether it's completed has been it's false. You can maybe send a last task, and the last task is maybe run errands. And for completed, let's say completed here is true. Yeah, also we send this request as well. As you can see, it has already done that. Yeah, so the next thing that we do now after this is just go to MongoDB and confirm that our API is working. The connection worked. As we saw in our terminal, the connection already connected to MongoDB, but now we just need to confirm whether this request that we sent were already sent to our MongoDB database. But before we do that again, let's try and make a get request. Yeah. So for get request, just do get, and then we send the request. Yeah, and as you've made a get request, as you can see here, all these tasks that we created are already here. So this first empty task was sent there, but the first one that we sent was this write code, then clean task, and then run errands. Again, all these ones are working. So the same is true for if you want to make maybe a patch request, a delete request, you can do all this as well. Yeah. But for now, we've confirmed that our API is working. The connection, of course, worked. We sent all this. But just as the last thing, we're going to go to MongoDB Atlas and confirm that all these tasks have already been updated in our database. Yeah, now that we've already tested our API with Postman, now let's see, and we've confirmed it is working. Let's see if any of those requests made it to our database. So this is where we are last. Yeah. So for us to check our deployments, basically the collections, we just go to this arrow, click on it. The next thing we're going to do is go to browse collections. So browse collections, and then Now, this is, as you can see, our to dos. That is what we just created, and all those tasks that we sent. Yeah, they are here. So you can see write code, clean, run errands. Everything is already here. Yeah. So as you can see, our API worked. We've successfully connected it, our Node.js project, with MongoDB, and it is working. Thank you for watching this far. See you again in the next tutorial.